I'm a sucker for a big kit. See the border models link in the background there, but you know what this video is about. Let's have a look at a 1/16 scale Sherman. Yes, this is the one from I Love Kit, one of the weirdest branding choices in the hobby, but there it is. I bought this, well I should have bought 5 as the thing goes, to go alongside my Hobby Boss Tiger in 1/16. I bought this one instead of the Andy Hobbies headquarters version because I wanted to see what these guys have got going, and of course I got it for 25% off, so I can't miss out on that bargain. So let's have a look inside and see what the kit's like. Now I'm standing up here above my bench. I've got the camera almost on the ceiling to get the size of this box. As you can see, it's quite large. I can't even get my 2 hands together. But yeah, it's a 1/16 scale M4A3E8 or an Easy 8 Sherman tank. So with the HVSS suspension, if you've watched Fury, you know what this tank is. Okay, this is pretty much the premier medium tank that the Allies used, US specifically in World War II, late war. So let's see if I can get around the box with that, knocking all my lights over. So side box art we've got, just showing you some of the parts there. Whoop, excuse me, that was not me, that was the box. Okay, nothing on that side. We've got that lovely I Love Kit. What a strange brand name. We've got the blurb. Now, if this thing is starting to look familiar, well, it's Trumpeter, Gallery, Merit. They're all pretty much out of the same conglomeration. So it just gives you a bit of a bump there about the actual tank. A few parts, a few options. There's 3 options, an unmarked one, and then 2 from the 11th Armoured Division in Germany at the end of the war. And then the other side is pretty much the same. So it's a box, it's got stuff in it. Let's open it up. So the box is pretty packed, okay, and as you can see at the top there it says 2,200 pieces, 2,200 pieces. I have a theory about 1/16 scale kits. I reckon they're the cheapest kits you can get on a $1 per hour basis. So we've got call out sheet, instructions, a few other things. Let me get set up and we'll have a closer look. Let's pull out some of the parts and things. We've got a nice little A4 instruction booklet. We've got some of the sprues at the top here. You can see we've got a 2-piece barrel already, but that will be replaced soon. Lower turret ring with that sprue. Now look at, I assume that's the fenders. Yeah, I think that's the fenders. So you can see how large this tank's going to be. And then stuck on the side here, looks like it's the lower hull. So I'll just get that out. So there it is, there's the lower hull, which is approximately, I'll just rule this off, it's 26 centimeters long, so it's almost a foot long, just that lower hull piece. And it's got all the rubber wheels inside. We've got 2 identical sprues with all the wheels, so that's those, and the suspension parts. There's quite a lot of suspension parts there. Oh wait, there's more, there's another identical set of sprues. And then we get all the track pieces. Oh, that's going to be a fun night of sitting in front of the telly, putting these track pieces together. Okay, all the pads and the tracks. That's actually all, there we go, on that side of the kit, apart from what looks like the back plate. Yeah, that's the back plate and the engine deck. Pretty much this whole side of the kit is just a suspension. There's the front transmission housing, and I can already see through the plastic, but I'll show you later. Some really nice cast texture, plus some raised details there. So, going on the other side, we get this nice little fancy box, detail upsets, I think. I haven't even looked inside here yet. Okay, so we've got some 3D printed parts here. Got a metal machine gun barrel, looks like got a resin figure, and a 1-piece aluminium barrel. So I'm glad that they include those bits. Have a closer look at that in a minute. Decal sheet is A4 size, and it looks like just big, massive stars. I don't think I'd end up using this. I think I'll mask my own. And then in a little sub box here, this must be all the detail parts. So just very quickly, we've got sprue with a cupola and some of the assault tools. We've got a really nice 50 cal, 50 cal and a 30 cal. We've got some more transmission parts there and some light guards and everything. And now in this scale, that's actually really good. You don't need to use photo etch. We've got some springs and sprockets and engine grills. And, aha, okay, so we've got a few other things. We've got clear pieces, we got some other ones. We'll have a look at it closely. And then we've got the turret. Now, that's a really interesting size turret. Let me bring in something I prepared earlier. This is a This is a Tiger 1 early turret that I've, from the Hobby Boss kit, 1/16 scale, that I've heavily modified. As you can see, it's not quite finished, I'm almost there. We place the Sherman on top. It's, yeah, we're talking about a similar size without the barrel, but interesting. So there we go, there's that. Just put the Tiger away. And then the last piece, or these must be, that's a very heavy bag, there must be track pins. Here's the last piece, nicely protected by foam there. We get the main hull. There we go. And again, I'm going to pull out my Tiger tank and let's compare them just very quickly. So as you can see, I've heavily modified this. I've had to remove quite a bit of detail to add detail back, but anyway, that's a topic for another day. And there's the Sherman on top, so it's not much of a difference in size. Look at that. Can you see that? I'll just flip it over. Oh, okay. Not much of a difference in size between the Tiger and the Sherman. I'm really surprised at that. I mean, hello, I've built Shermans before, but yeah, I've never actually completed an Easy 8 though. And I've just noticed there's a little photo etch fret here. Oh yeah, to put some raised numbers there. You can't see it, let's zoom in. The instruction booklet is very simple, A4, 20 pages, 20 part, 20 steps. Usual, if you've seen any sort of trumpeter or Hobby Boss kit before, it's exactly the same layout that they have for every one of them, and as I go through, the graphics I use is exactly the same as per that whole conglomerate. We've got a sprue map on this side. Now the 2200 parts, 2200 parts, I believe it's from these nine sprue of track links. So the other parts, don't be so daunted. Yes, there's lots of track parts, but the other parts, it doesn't look too bad. It looks fairly well detailed enough that there's no interior, so you don't have to spend 4 years building it like David Parker with his Panzer IV. Let's go through the instructions step by step. I might zoom in just a tiny wee bit just so you can see a bit better, and we'll go through the process. So the lower hull is done first. We build the different idler wheels there, and then we have to make all the bogies for the HVSS suspension. So it looks like not too many parts. Look very similar to the Tamiya 135th method of doing it. It looks like the wheels are, yeah, no cement. It looks like the wheels and the suspension elements there, the horizontal spring there, which has got springs on the inside here, is all workable. So it looks like workable tracks, which is always helpful. The bogies go on, and now I just wonder if you can magnetize them. I don't know, I'm just thinking outside the box there. Anyway, maybe I just need to have another drink. I haven't had a drink in a few days. It's been a tough week. Okay, step 4, we're doing, it looks like the back plate. Yeah, there's the exhaust parts, the toe linkages and so forth. So that looks fairly easy to put together. And yeah, there's the back plate going on the rear hull. In the next step, this is very clear instructions, very easy to follow so far. When I actually build the thing, I'll have to work out if there's any mistakes or have you. And then we build the tires, and they've spelt tire with T-Y-E-R. For you Americans, it's T-I-R-E, I believe. So we've got the rubber tires going on the road wheels, and they're encapsulated there. Yeah, so we do, the transmission cover is step 7. I have to look at the references and see if you have to clean those sprockets up. I believe you do, but I may be wrong on that. And yes, that looks like they're workable as well, with some sort of cap arrangement there, which is great. And then put it on the lower hull, and that finishes the lower hull suspension. Put the inner fenders on. Those long pieces I saw at the start. And then I can't remember, I think that's the rear radiator or air stack that goes through on the back plate. And then we make the tracks. Now, they could have made that a little clearer, but I think I can work out what you've got to do. Okay, so you've got to make these the MF parts. Now, there were some parts, I'll have to have a look. I think these parts are replaced by the 3D printed bits in this detail upsell. I'll have to have a closer look soon. But it looks like, yeah, you've got twin axles, those pins. That's going to take a long time. In fact, that's going to take, Yeah, that's the bulk of the construction of the kit right there and there. But it will result, hopefully, in some really nice workable track links. The proof is in the pudding, I guess. And then we move in the same step to the upper hull, where we're putting in periscopes and the bow machine gun. Now, I think again that there's a metal barrel for that one as well, but that looks... It's not workable, but and you're not really going to see much of that inside. So, but it's interesting they give you that. And then the rear engine deck is next. Not that many parts, to be honest. The grills, a few tools, the fuel tank, the fuel latch there looks nicely detailed. A few other vents things on the rear deck there, and that's placed in. And then we finish the upper hull construction, main construction, I guess, by putting on the upper rear part there. Oh, point to it, Chris, so they can actually see it. A few more tools, a few more boxes, and of course the infamous rack on the back of the Sherman there, which I actually used on my tank girl, even though it wasn't a Sherman turret. Now we've got periscopes. So this is really interesting. So the hatches look like they're workable, or can be posed at least. And as I very briefly saw, that the periscope guards look like a really nice scale. So there's no photo etch involved here. It looks like just all styrene, which is great. So you don't have to mess around with that. So yeah, we've got a few more parts to go on the upper hull. Now it looks like they're using the standard way of doing this, which is the way I wouldn't recommend, and what most armor modelers don't recommend is you don't build the lower half completely and then build the upper half completely and then glue them together. You glue the hulls together, let them go off, fix all any problems with it, then you put all the details on, so therefore there's less chance of breaking them. Other people have different ways of doing it, whatever. More details going on, more tank, fuel tank caps, lights, we've got more guard covers, and yeah, so it looks like it's all styrene and so forth. There's a little bit of photo etch here down the corner for that rear light, so that's okay, and some spare track links on the side. And then we've got the travel lock for the barrel, and a few more pieces, and we've got the infamous lifting lugs that made the Sherman transportable around the world to fight the fascists. And now we have the cable. So I did see cable in there somewhere, some tow cable that you can put, and we chuck the halves together, and then we move on to the turret. So let's have a look at the turret. Then we move on to the turret, which is a conventional way where you capture the lower ring, the turret ring, with the upper half, with looks like a movable inner mantlet cover with pins. And then moving across here, we start to add some more of the details. Got the back piece, some of the lifting lugs, and I believe that's the rack for the 50 cal that goes on the rear. The side, over here, the side ports as well. And then we do the hatches. So there's quite a few hatches on the Sherman, which made it quite survivable, contrary to popular belief. We've got the cupola. That's the loader's hatch. We've got all the parts, the handles. Again, it looks like they've got all the parts for the inside and the outside. So if you want to pose this open, maybe have a figure in there just to hide the fact there's no internal bits, that's possible as well. We've got all the other mantlet pieces that are going on there, the multi-layered piece, the cloth cover. And then we've got the 50 cal, 50 cal under construction there. The main barrel going in with the unfortunately two-piece muzzle brake, or three-piece actually. And the cupola all done, and then we just chonk on the big turret to the big hull, and then that's done. Alright, let's have a quick look at some of the other things I've got here right now. So we've got the color call out. So would you believe it's olive drab? Did you know that? Olive drab. Well, they're calling it khaki green for some reason. I really like this, is it Esky? This one here, this one looks good. It's got the strange markings on the white there, or flat foot boogie, I think that's called there. So I'll have a look at the I don't know which version I'm going to be doing. I'm not even sure what I'm going to do in terms of stowage and so forth. Let me look at the decals. Here they are. I'll just have to open it up. Here are the decals, decals, wet transfers. Insert your own description here. Not bad, actually not too thick. They looked thick from the start, but no. But the writing on the bottom here, let me just tighten up. The font's sort of change, really strange. So you got flat foot flugy. It sort of looks like the O's are zeros, which is a bit strange. Can you see that there? The flat foot flugy. And then Eskimo's obviously done in a stencil, a US Army stencil, and then Bart. That seems to be done sort of Korean War sort of stencil. So I don't know. They look pretty good. I mean, if you want to use them, fine. I mean, they're really easy to use. There's almost no carrier film on these. They look pretty good. Particularly these ones that have the sort of a grill effect or something. I don't know why they've got these red ones here. If you can tell me in the comments below why they've got this red, looks like it's, you know, it's got a stocking on or it's going to Christmas or something. But these look all right. I mean, the ones that you would pretty much use, that you want to use just straight out of the box, are the vehicle code numbers there. But everything else, I would actually get a mask made or buy a mask and actually paint on all those stars. Well, let's start to look at the parts, and let's start with the detail upset. The detail upset includes a nice, funky little booklet form of instructions here, and it's quite detailed. I'm actually surprised. I didn't realize there was that much detail included in the detail upset. So we've got 3 frets of photo etch there. Okay, we've got an obvious big thing of 3D printed parts. They call them crawler teeth there. They must be some of the replacement parts. A round bar, a piece of chain, and then we get the machine gun tubes, the main barrel, and a soldier. So let's have a look at what you get in the photo etch. If you can see that. So it looks like an ammunition box. Oh yeah, then a proper round bar for, let's see if I can find it. There's the chain. I can't see the bar as yet. Maybe it's in here. I think they literally mean this styrene. So you get a piece of styrene there, and you capture the hinges there on that ammunition box. So that's a really interesting up detail set. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's round bar, as in that's the polystyrene. So you cut off pieces to make these hinges for these ammo carriers. And there it goes into its bin. So that's a really big increase in detail. We've got latches there, which are always a pain. That's what I'm hung up on my Tiger at the moment. And then that goes onto the 50 cal. Just tighten up here a little bit more. So that just goes onto the 50 cal, and they give you different handles as well, and it looks like a different feed carrier or top plate thing there. And then we get on to the main barrel. So we get this lovely turned aluminium one-piece barrel, but not the muzzle brake, just the barrel, and then you put the plastic pieces over the end, and lots of latches and things to replace for the back of the turret, and also to replace, there we go. So if you want to have photo etch tool handles, it's all there in the kit. So there we go for the shovel, for the pick, for the axe, and for the main crowbar there. It's all done. And then moving forward, okay, they have provided the, I'll have a look in a minute, the light covers in photo etch, even though I think they look pretty good in styrene. And that's a point. If you're happy with what the styrene looks like, you don't need to use the photo etch. You're not you're not having to use every piece there. Got some extra detail around all the fuel caps, which is good. And then we've got for the gun cleaning barrels. Okay, we've got some latches, and then we've got for the machine gun for the 30 cal, I believe that is. Yeah, that's the 30 cal. Yeah, it's interesting. It looks like it's for the 30 cal, not for the 50 cal. No, the 50 cal they've left off. So that's the 30 cal bow machine gun barrel, which you might be able to get away with putting another one up top on the turret. Let's see. So yeah, here's all the periscopes, the light guards and so forth that you can do. They give you a piece of chain, extra detail for the gun carry lock thingo, and there we go. So you replace these main crawler teeth with the photo etch parts onto the tracks. So that it looks interesting. I'll have to compare the detail between that and the styrene, because that just looks like another step. You have to use super glue to get them onto the styrene. And then the soldier, which they don't give you any instructions for whatsoever. So let's start on the soldier, which is obviously this bundle of resin. I just need to cut it open. So let's look at the resin tank commander. It looks like a TC, or it could be, yeah, it is a TC. And it's really nicely done. So if you can look at those parts there, that's the bottom. and it's got a nice keyed in slot there for the torso to go into there. So, and it has an obvious cut off there at his belt, so there shouldn't be any major seam filling there. He looks in scale, looks appropriate. Doesn't look like a 6'2" monster from 2022. And the details are quite nice. Let me get my pointy stick out. So we've got straps here which terminate and don't go anywhere, but that is for the, where is it? For his arm, which has got the, what are they called? Binoculars. Get it right, Chris. Jesus. So the arm just slots into there, into that keyed slot, and then they align up with those there. So you don't need to make any straps for the binoculars. He's got his 45 there with, yeah, it looks like it's latched over on the side, and yeah, it looks quite good. I hope this is to scale to the right period. It's end of war period uniform. It looks sort of okay. So yeah, there's no obvious seam lines. It's really nice, smooth resin. It's a really lovely figure. The boots even look good, even though you won't see. Oh, the boots actually look massive. It looks like Ronald McDonald boots, actually. We've got a separate hand here for his interior microphone, talking to the crew. That's really well done. So he's got his finger on the trigger there to talk to his crew. And then the arm, like I said before, with the binoculars, and I'll zoom in a moment. We'll have a look at the face. So if we look at the face, okay. So the face detail is quite good. He's even got teeth on the inside there. The face is fairly expressive. I can't tell what sort of nationality he is without putting some primer on it. It's sort of somewhat Asian, but not really. A bit like it's hard to tell. But the helmet itself is lovely. There's no seam marks. It's really, really well done. I hope you can see that detail there. I'm not going too fast. For those of you who are going to put this figure in, I think that's a really, really lovely addition. So great. So I won't take it out of the bag, but there's the 30 cal barrel and barrel shroud. It's done in lovely brass. It's beautiful. It's really well done. And they just give you a piece of styrene stock for doing the hinges on those machine gun ammo cans and stuff. And then of course it's out of, you can't see it, but I'll zoom out in a second. Lovely turned barrel, looks great. It's got good size. I mean, like I've got a turned barrel on my Tiger 1. I think they add a little bit of authenticity to the model. So let's look at the photo etch frets next and move on. So here's the photo etch fret is out, and you can see a bit of reflection there because both sides are covered in plastic film, which is a really good protective piece there. So the great thing about 1/16 scale is the photo etch isn't that daunting compared to 1/35 or even 1/48. So we've got some pretty large pieces here that are really easy to fold, and even the smallest pieces, the fine pieces there, are still, it's half the length of my modeling knife there. And yeah, here we go. This is quite lovely. I don't know if you can read that there, but it's marked, diesel fuel, water, gasoline, something oil, something lubricating oil, diesel fuel oil. That's all there, but I think there's a spelling error. They've left out the E in the diesel. Anyway, there's that, and then we've got some of the straps here for this other fret, so that's quite nice. And again, this is pretty big photo etch. It's not, like, I don't mean it's thick, it's just they're nice big pieces, and that's one of the allures of 1/16 scale. And then you just get a nice piece of chain for the end. Okay, so let's look at these 3D printed parts next, and I haven't opened these up yet. I'll just open them up, and you can tell they're 3D printed already by the support gates there that they use when it goes up and down on the printer. If I can get them out. So there's 2 packets. So these are the ones that go on the claws. Now what I have to do is find the respective plastic parts and see if there's actually an improvement. So I found the respective plastic parts, these 9 sprues of these track parts, and so what these replace, this is a 1-piece connector piece for the tracks, which is actually done in 2 pieces in styrene. Now they've slide molded that end with where the track pins obviously go in, so that correspond to those 2 holes there, but then they've got these other parts that you have to glue together. So is it a time-saving thing? I don't know why they've included it. Maybe it's got more fidelity because there's obviously no seam cleanup between those 2 parts there. Taking these parts off the 3D print will take some time, but compared to having to clean up all of these, So that would merit a bit of a trial run, see which one is preferable to you. But it's really interesting that they've included that, and then they've given you some spares as well. I thought I'd start the Sprue Tour, for want of a better word. I love that word, Sprue Tour. Let's go for a tour of the main parts. So we've got the upper turret piece, we've got the upper hull piece, and we have the lower hull. Let's start with the turret. That's a big chonky turret. It fits in my two hands like that together, and at first glance, and I will zoom in a minute, but let's just look at it from this angle. There's a lot of cast or rolled steel texture on here, and thankfully it doesn't look too uniform. It does change as you go from panel to panel. So let's zoom in properly and have a look. So as you can see, the surface detail is lovely, and that means I don't have to add any. I've had to do it to my Hobby Boss 116 Tiger. That's all Mr. Surfacer that you add there and stipple on. But for this kit, no, it's all there. Plus there's also casting marks here, okay, with the raised numbers, and on the side as well. So you can see how that light's catching, how you're getting all that lovely detail. So that's fantastic. Just out of the box like that, there's nothing you have to do. There's a similar effect on the upper hull. So I won't zoom out just yet for whole size, it's massive, but you can see you've got that cast effect here, and you've got some really lovely well detail all the way along there, and it's not uniform. They've changed it up here and there, so that's great. You've got the casting marks, all the numbers, the raised detail there. The glasses plate, I think that looks like there's going to be a piece going on there because that's dead smooth. And yeah, the fenders are nice and smooth because they're sheet metal, that makes sense. So you've got the right textures here and there where required. It is a bit smooth at the back there, as you can see. I might add a bit more to that, just another little layer. But that's really, really lovely. I can't see any faults with the molding. Can't see any problems with the parts. I'm just going to flip her over. And yeah, that's quite lovely. So let's go for the bottom piece last and have a look at him. So this is mainly all bolted on detail. So you got these lovely bolts here on where the bogies go, and they are nicely molded as well. And then underneath, it's all nice chunky parts. You got these really big bolt heads here that stand out. Okay, on the bottom, that's fantastic. So that's quite nice, and it's going to be a big beast. Right, which sprue should we look at first? Because there's plenty of them to look at, so let's get going. I thought I'd start with the suspension parts first because there's multiple sprues for this one. So there's the main wheels and some of the spring covers and so forth, and the bogie parts. So we've got some slide molding there on these parts, and this is all general, overall, really nice and tight trumpeter Hobby Boss standard. I can't see any major pieces of flash or problems. If I just flip it over on the other side, there's no nasty ejection pin marks on the inside of wheels or what have you. There's lots of lovely bolt detail. I'm not a rivet counter on Shermans. I don't know much about them. I know that this is an easy 8 and it's close enough. It might not be perfect, but you know, it looks like the detail is all there. The detail is all quite lovely. So yeah, I'm noticing parts that would normally be simplified on 148 or 135th are in multiple parts here. You know, things like these caps here, for example, there's no seam line where the springs are. If I move over to the track sprue, so like I said, there's 9 of these, and we had a quick look at these for the 3D printed parts, but this will consume most of your time building these parts. So they give you a jig down the bottom of each sprue, and then you place the track pins in there, and then you add the end connectors, and then you add the underside and then the overside of the tracks, and eventually you get workable track links. Now, they've minimized the attachment points. If you've got a really nice sharp pair of sprue cutters, you might be able to get away with not much cleaning up, but I think this is going to take some time to do. Okay, moving on to the next one. Actually, I want to look at this first. We've got this rubber piece here, and that's for the mantlet. It's the canvas mantlet cover. Now, this may not be to everyone's style and suiting, but you know, it does the job. There's no sort of nastiness that I can see anywhere around apart from the inside, but you won't see that. So that looks pretty good. I mean, you get that nice sort of canvas feeling. So here's the major parts for the turret. So we've got the cupola here, which has lovely cast texture on it and the raised letters on there as well. The bolt detail around the periscopes looks fantastic. We've got some more cast detail there on, I think that's the antenna mount. We've got the 50 cal and the 30 cal, so you can see that the base 30 cal doesn't have the drilled out barrel holes, whereas the 50 cal one does, so that's why you have that brass barrel and the detail upset. The receivers for the 50 cals for the machine guns look great. Just flipping over, okay, there's a couple of ejection pin marks, but they're external ones, you just got to remove them to clean it up. You've got a belt of ammunition here, and that looks quite good. All the links look right in place. The tools look lovely. I mean, it's really, really well done. Here's the light guard cover that I think that's scale thickness enough. I mean, I wouldn't really worry too much about, maybe it is a little bit too thick on that side. I don't know, but the opportunity is with styrene is you can bash that up a bit. All the photos I've seen of Shermans, these are all bashed up because they, the crew grab onto them and they stand on them and what have you. The other hatch looks really good. You can hear that's got raised numbers on each one. That's really, really lovely. Yeah, so this is why I love 1/16 scale. It's quite a delight to put that together. Moving to the next sprue, just going to move along really quickly. We've got these massive under fender pieces here. This is for the back door. Yeah. So it's a nice smooth piece of steel there, but it's got some weld marks here or cut marks there, which is good. I might still add a bit of Mr. Surfacer in there. It only takes 5 minutes to do. I think there's the fenders. Some of the handles and that are really nice. In this scale, that makes sense, that sort of thickness. So that's really good, really good. And there's some of the lifting lugs there too. So yeah, quite good. Let's barrel along. We've got some more turret parts to look at. So this is the lower ring, and it carries on. Hopefully I'm catching that in the light. It carries on the cast texture from the upper. I believe that there's a weld seam line. They weld the two halves together. Don't correct me on that, or correct me if you want. I don't care. And that's how that goes together. So you got some more machine gun parts. There's the mantlet here, which is cast with raised ones. So I wonder how that works with the with this cover here. Oh, okay, that goes over the top of that. Right. So the only main problem that could possibly, I don't think it's that big of a problem because again the scale's the thing. We've got a 2-piece muzzle brake. So cleaning up that seam line shouldn't be too difficult. And just looking around, all the parts look really lovely. They're done extremely well. No complaints here. So we've got some more turret and external parts. So that's one of the transmission cover sprocket wheel things there. Bit smooth, but that's okay. And yeah, we've got some really nice grab handles there on the left. And looks like spare track. Then we got a nice armored cover. These parts look really, really good. I really like the periscope covers. That's nicely in scale. I'd be happy with that. That's good enough. And then we've got nice slide molded end. See that for the tow cable ends. That's great. Let's move on to the next one, and I'll just quickly pull it out of its bag. So this is the sprockets and one of the grills. I don't think they're supposed to be see-through, so that's fine as is. Interesting, they've got the other side done the same way as well, but there's no interior. The main sprocket looks really well done. That should go together well. No ejection pin marks that you can obviously see. And let's go through a few more small parts. We've got the cupola, which has got the hatches, again, raised detail with the numbers, the marking numbers there, foundry numbers, that's good. And then we've got some more parts for the 50 cal, for the external one. So these are the parts that ostensibly you could replace with photo etch, the magazine boxes. And there's the pintle, and there's the barrel itself, and it's not really well drilled out, so you might want to drill that out again. Not too bad, all things considered. I'd be really happy with just those parts there. Clear parts, so we've got quite a few periscopes and the inserts for the cupola there, so they're done well. We've got the lenses for the headlights and for the tail lights. Yeah, nothing more to repeat there because you're not really comparing this to aircraft clarity. It's tink. What have I got left to do? I think I've got one more major sprue to look at, and then we can wrap this thing up. So that's the engine deck and the back plate. Or is that the front plate? No, it's the back plate. Yeah, again, Really, really lovely parts. Can't see any faults with them. There's no, oh, there's a mild sort of rolled steel sort of texture here, or maybe that's just the texture of the plastic itself. Again, they give you posable engine covers, so maybe you can get a 1/16 scale engine, you can chuck it in there. It's going to flip it over, and we get where we could get problems with these air vent covers, but no, there's no ejection pin marks on the inside there, so they all look nice and clean. Looks, no, it's not. I thought it was flash, but it's not. It's location marks there. There's a couple of sink marks on that one. Oh, but that's for the inside, so that's no drama. So yeah, sprues look fantastic. Oh no, I got one more piece to show you. Let me just cut it up and we can call it a day. So this is the infamous, if you're a Tiger tank maintainer, Sherman front transmission housing. You remove all those bolts and a few more on the side, you pull the whole thing off, you take the transmission out, bingo bongo, trademark Harry Houdini, you're good to go. Versus hours and hours and hours and hours on a Tiger tank. Again, lovely cast texture, really good location marks there for the main housing parts there, and all those bolts look fantastic. I can't see any sort of mismolds or anything like that. It's looking like a fantastic kit. So yeah. Honestly, I think the only thing this kit's missing, particularly now you've got that detail upset with a crew figure, you can get some more crew figures if you want, is some stowage. So I luckily was able to purchase these value gear pieces. I actually got this from my M5 Stuart, but I will use a few pieces for the Sherman and maybe get a few more. I didn't see any jerry cans, I didn't see any other sort of external equipment, just the normal pioneering tools. So yeah, I think that's the only thing really missing is some stowage. But just to sum up the kit, I mean, this looks like a fantastic kit. I'm really getting into 1/16 scale armor. I've built a few of the tack-on ones. I need to paint them, of course, so they take forever to paint. The tankettes, for my sort of hobby, the thing I like to do about with armor, I'm not that much of an armor builder compared to aircraft, but I mean, that you can go into a zen phase with armor and you just build and glue, build and glue, build and glue, and this kit will give you that option. There's so many parts, 2,200 parts. Admittedly, more than half of that it's going to be the tracks, but this looks like a fun kit to put together, and just to, you know, you could almost bang it out over a weekend if you really want to. It'd probably take you several weeks of solid construction work. Those tracks will take a few weeks of watching your favorite TV show at night, cutting pieces off and cleaning them up. And yeah, I can't say anything about the accuracy of the kit. I've heard rumours that the tracks aren't exactly right for the period. I've heard that you know, there might be some forebills with the turret and the mantlet, but to me it looks like a Sherman tank. I'm happy with it. I was able to get this at a really, really good price as well. That always makes me a bit more easier to recommend something. I think I got it for 20-25% off retail, so you know, it's going to be it's a relatively cheap kit for the number of hours that I'm going to be spending on just construction alone. And then the fun part is going to be painting that olive drab. I mean, what a canvas you've got. You've got, you know, you've got a 40 centimeter square box to do. And just a tip here, if you've never built never painted a 1/16 tank before, it's not twice the size of a 1/35-ish tank. It's actually 8 times the size. The volume goes up, it's cubed, okay? So you're talking about 8 times the amount of paint. So you're talking about 8 times the length of time it will take to actually paint and weather. So again, you're getting your dollar for your buck. I'll leave it there. I had a really good time going over this Sprue Tour, looking at the instructions, looking at the whole kit for you, comparing it to my old Tiger One from Hobby Boss. You know, it shows it's actually a very similar size between the Sherman and the Tiger. I'm quite shocked at that. In those scales, so it's going to be a really good addition to my collection, and hopefully you'll see me build it one day right here on the channel. But until then, cheers.